What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and welcome back to another video guide. In today's video, we are going to take a look at the new global event called Crimson Arms. In this video, we are going to also take a look at a quote-unquote cheese strategy. So before we do start, like and subscribe if you haven't already, because it does help the channel guys, and I would really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's start this video. Alright guys, we'll start this video off in how you're gonna deal with the Lufenia Orb, which starts at the start of the battle and will disappear once the bosses hit less than 30% of their HP. You will get 10 Lufenia Orb counts when the target is hit by Wind Element. Characters that can do this are obviously going to be Fujin, Bart, Vaan to a lesser extent. Shantotto can do this relatively well as well. However, I would highly recommend just using either Fujin or Bart for this one. Alright guys, so now let's move on how the fight works. Now, the quote-unquote all attacks are all going to be pretty much be an AoE HP attack, which is also a guaranteed hit. Now when the boss gets these red auras as well, which coincides when they get the huge brave gain, they will use a plus variant of an ability called Spear Shot, which basically removes all your buffs and hit you with a brave plus HP attack. This is almost a guaranteed one shot and will kill your character, so be careful with this one, and we'll talk about how you're gonna be avoiding that later on. So speaking about the gain brave and the decreased brave damage when they reach certain HP threshold, these HP threshold are 79% and 59%, and also at 29%. So there is a little bit of difference between the 79 and 59%. So the way I'm going to explain it is basically when at least one of the bosses hit 79%, both the bosses will get their will gain their brave, and we will have a decreased brave damage as well. This is going to happen at 79 and 59%. However, the 29% is kind of independent of each other. So basically, if one boss gets 29%, only that boss will get the brave gain. I don't know why it works like this, but that's just the way it is. Also, it's important to note that the boss will get like a brave regen aura every time after their turn, so be careful with that and just make sure they don't get like a turn after the other. The boss is also immune to the poison and all the different kinds of imperils and the puncture debuff. And the biggest thing here is that the boss cannot be delayed. Alright guys, so now you know how the fight works. How are you going to be dealing with this fight? Well, just like in the Kadaj Lufenia fight, instant break characters will make things so much easier for you during those brave gain moments. Now you can add Barts to that list as well if you did watch my previous video. And don't worry too much if you didn't watch the previous video, because we'll be going through some of the characters you can bring later down the track anyway. But moving on, other alternatives to deal with that brave gain are to use gravity-based damage. Now, it was pointed out to me in my previous video that this isn't exactly the best way to deal with this, and I do agree with that. To a certain point, you can only reduce their brave to a certain percentage before you really need to, do some damage, right? And unfortunately, you're gonna be doing once all the time, so gravity damage isn't exactly the best alternative, but it is an alternative nonetheless. And I put a lot of asterisks there because of that reason. Gravity-based damage, you do have to find characters that can immediately reduce down their brave down to 0, and only 2 characters really can do that to a certain extent. Well, not to a certain, they can definitely do it, and that is Exdeath if you do have his LD. Now, Exdeath is a gravity-based character, that's why when I thought of gravity-based damage, I kind of thought about Exdeath as well. But Ultimisia and other characters like Bartz can have some gravity-based damage as well, and even like Gilgamesh has that too. However, because of the nature of Spear Shot Plus, where the boss will get a huge Brave gain and follow it up with a Brave plus HP attack, you really need those gravity based damage to be instantly down to 0, and there's really not a lot of characters can do that. So I guess take it with a grain of salt when using gravity based damage that doesn't instantly drop the enemy's boss's Brave down to 0. So that's all I'm going to say regarding the gravity based damage. And I guess this brings me to my final point, is if you get hit by Spear Shot Plus, the best way to deal with this is just to revive your character. There are 2 characters that comes to mind, and that is Y'shtola and Aerith, that can revive pretty well. So it may drop down your points a little bit. I do believe it doesn't drop your points as much as it did back then, but it is another option. Alright, so let's talk about the characters you can bring for this particular fight. Honestly, this is one of those fights, again, that you can bring any character you want, because there's really no restriction. And the fact that the boss are weak to melee and physical range attacks does help. So bringing Squall, Cloud, Garland, Lightning, Balthier, you know, all these characters that I've listed here, you know, are going to be very helpful in your team. The only thing that I will mention as well is just to bring instant break characters, because they are going to be very important in this particular fight. Alright, so for Cole characters though, we do have kind of the same characters as always, like Jack, Fujin, yeah, Aerith if you need that revive. Amid the Lion is pretty good as well. The biggest thing here is obviously Fujin. You need the wind element, especially if you don't have Bartz. You will need Fujin in this particular fight. And you know, instant break calls, again, Caius is there, Extet to a lesser extent, and I would put Bartz here as well, honestly, because of if you do get his LD but do not want to use him in your main team, which I know some people don't, but yeah, you can definitely put Bartz here as well. Alright guys, now let's talk about party compositions. The main team I have for you guys is going to be the one that you're seeing in this video, which is Bartz, Platinum Cecil, and Squall. My call team was Amethyst Lion, Jack, and Fujin. Honestly, Jack can kind of be replaced here by Caius. I think that would have been a much better choice for me. But support here, I got Bartz as well, and Summon, I went with Ramuh, but you don't really have to have Ramuh. You can have Odin as well if you want to do more damage, especially with that, you know, defense down aura that Odin has. And the next team we have is going to be Bartz, Gladio, and Trey, which Trey being your key character to break the enemy's thanks to his EX debuff. You just have to time that right. Cole team, I went with Amethyst Lion and Fujin. You need to save Bartz's LD for those Brave gain moments, so just be careful with that. And support, I went with Golbez here, but Bart's support is probably a little bit safer here. And then you've got Odin for your summon. Now, the last team I have for you guys is going to be the Cheese team, or at least one of the different kinds of Cheese team. The 2 important characters here are Lightning and Terra. Garland is here for the damage. Unfortunately, you cannot delay the boss, so yeah, he's just gonna be here mainly for the damage. Call team Caius, Fujin, and Amethyst Lion, and support Bartz, just because you don't really have a lot of wind element here. You're relying a lot on Fujin here, so Fujin will probably be on Garland because you're gonna use a lot of turn shenanigans with Lightning and Terra and don't want to use that up too quickly. And then summon, it's either Ifrit or Pandemonium for extra, you know, support when it comes to the wind element. Alright, so you saw an example of a Cheese team, but what exactly is this quote-unquote cheese? Well, it's just taking advantage of turn manipulation. Having Lightning and Terra here definitely is the key to this cheese. Now, if you do have Yang, it will just make the cheese more fun, but he's not completely necessary. Fujin Call, of course, as I mentioned before, if you do have her LD, that'll make things so much easier as well, seeing as, you know, you will have a fallback as well. Instant break characters are going to be, you know, for Terra and Lightning, so those calls are going to be on Terra and Lightning because they're going to do the bulk of the damage. Now for the summon, any summon can really work here, but I went with Odin because of the fact that it reduces their defense. Plus, there is a chance that Odin can instant break as well, and I do believe some of the other summons can do it, but I'm not exactly sure, because when I summoned Ramuh previously, it actually broke one of the boss, so I guess the summon's damage is unaffected by the Brave damage reduction. So you can let me know down in the comments below if that's right. Alright guys, so we're finally towards the end of this video, and of course I'll give you guys my final thoughts regarding this fight. You know what, I didn't really have much issue with this. I had more issue with Kadaj's Lafenia, but I guess repeating the same kind of mechanic and having an extra character that can absolutely destroy that mechanic really helps. Like, I know Kadaj, you know, can do that as well, like he can instant break, but the thing with Kadaj was you're relying on his like EX, but with Bartz it was on call. It was like his LD. You can do it anytime. You don't have to wait for a charge and whatnot to do that instant break. So it really did help a lot having Bartz here. And I'll be lying if I say, you know, doing this without Bartz is easier. It just makes things so much easier having Bartz along. And even though I didn't get his burst, you know, it's not completely necessary for this fight. His LD is the one that you're aiming for here. And yeah, there are other alternatives that we kind of found out during Kadaj's event that really helped me, you know, figure out really much more quicker than with Kadaj's event. So in any case, I would say this is in the middle of the road for me. It's not completely hard and it's not completely easy either, because the boss can delay you as well. That's something that I forgot to mention, and they cannot be delayed. So one of those things, you know, not being able to delay the boss does hurt when it comes to like having a much fluid run, but in any case, I think that's all I can really think about regarding this fight. I wouldn't say it's the hardest fight we've had, but I wouldn't say it's the easy one as well, because I can see people having difficulty, and I guess it is quite limiting as well, because of the wind element damage that you need. And you know, like I said, I only listed a few characters that can actually do this, and much consistently as well. You know, Shantaro is a single target, you know, damage, so it's not going to work that well. You always have to switch around between the two and make sure that they don't actually drop their Lafenia orb down to 0. So yeah, I guess if anything, it is a limiting factor in this particular fight, which is the wind element. Anyway guys, that is it for this video. Please do remember to click like and subscribe if you haven't already. This does help the channel, and I would really appreciate it if you do share this video as well to other players who are struggling and want to find out how to beat this fight, and you know, just maybe a few tips here and there. Yeah, and you can always follow me on Facebook and on Twitter at Munchkins Gaming. Leave down in the comments below which team you pulled on this one. Did you actually use the cheese strategy on this one as well? Let me know down in the comments below. This is Munchkins logging off. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next level.